First of all, we would like to welcome you to the public panel discussion 2 years after Euromaidan. We'll probably see it on the screen, I guess, in a minute. Our public panel discussion 2 years after Euromaidan, challenges and prospects for future cooperations. It is a highlight of the forum of the second Trilateral Youth Forum, Germany, Russia, Ukraine, a Common Future. Today we would like to first of all thank our host, People of Friendship University of Russia, for having us here, and especially Assistant Professor Andrei Kinyakin. We would like to say a couple of words how this project started. 2 years ago, really active people gathered at the 9th German-Russian Youth Parliament. It was December 2013, a month which was marked with different changes in Ukraine and in differences, how we perceived ourselves in our countries, in Germany, Russia, and Ukraine, how we perceived our past, we reconsidered our present, and we started to think about different future. And we all the time say it's their future, it's their past, and it's their present. But that's not what we want to address in here. And for 2 years, we are trying to say that there is a way for a common future. And we hopefully will find some nice solutions here today. During the week, we have the forum, and in our lives.
So basically 30 young people, students from Ukraine, Germany and Russia came to Moscow in order to find a common sense of their presence and the future. We had a chance to discuss a lot, to visit interesting places and to try to find common language. We've been to German embassy, to Russian State Duma and to Ukrainian Cultural Center in order to learn more about those countries and also to find more information about each other. We have different discussions on topics such as security, media, human rights, economy, and now at our panel discussion we would like you to also to react and to learn more about one of the key moments in the event that shaped the presence of all of us, like all our 3 countries, and we would like you to hear experts from 3 sides, and you will have a place to ask your questions, to negotiate, and to learn more what actually happened.
Last but not least, we have to thank our sponsors and partners who made this event possible. First of all, the German Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Friedrich Ebert Foundation, the Robert Bosch Foundation, CLAS, Metro Group, Schneider Group, Seiler Plus, Higher School of Economics, and Russian Friendships University of, People's Friendship University of Russia. Have I forgotten anything? Anyone? No, I don't think so.
Forgot our 3 distinguished guests.
No, of course. That was our partners and sponsors, but we also have to thank our distinguished guest. Thank you for coming here. This topic is quite important for us, and this forum is. We are only young people who organized all this, and young people are participating. So I hope we will have a good discussion here and respect each other, listen to each other, and we are keen to hear also quite good questions from you afterwards, after the discussion. So I would give the word now to our moderator, Mr. Andrei Kinyakin, and enjoy.
Thank you so much. I think that the problematic we are going to discuss today is rather interesting and vital, because at the moment there is the change of attitudes towards the relationship between different states, and Russia, Germany, and Ukraine at the moment are in the process of finding the new ways of cooperations. That's why I think actually that starting this podium discussion, we are going to discuss a lot of questions which maybe rather they're not easy, but I think we should start the discussion in order to find the solution to get good relationship between different states, because we are the neighboring state, and I think actually we should find some kind of formula for future cooperation, especially given the generations to come. So I present my today's speakers, and I think you will give them the warm welcome. First, it's the professor of University of Foreign Relations of State Institute of International Relations, but at the moment it's University. Irina Busygina, please welcome. Dr. Gerd Lenga, the former chairman of KNAUF, Commonwealth of Independent States, please welcome. And Oleh Rybachuk, chairman and co-founder of the Center UA, Ukraine, please welcome. First, we're going to discuss some questions which are really interesting, I think, for both of the audience and the experts. And when we give the free mic, so there will be a Q&A section, and you will have an opportunity to ask your question to experts and to express also your vision towards the problematic we are going to discuss. So my first question is rather common. 2 years passed after Euromaidan in Ukraine. How this event is perceived today in Russia, Germany, and Ukraine? Is there hope, pride, disenchantment connected with Euromaidan? What would you say? So we should start with the Russian experts.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Hello, dear colleagues or dear friends, and this is needless to say that I am very sincerely proud and grateful for you for the opportunity to be here, and I would like to start with saying that I would like to be understood very directly that I don't know in what sense I'm an expert from Russia. If this means that I will present you an official position, this is not the case. Since there are other people and other sources where you can seek for the Russian official position, but not in this case. What I will try to present is my own expert. I'm a Russian expert in the sense that I have the Russian passport and I work on the Russian territory in the Russian university, but not in the sense, again, that I defend the official position. So I'm an expert and not an official person. So it's my responsibility, my words are my responsibility, and only I'm standing behind my words. Now, what kind of feelings of 2 years after the Maidan? You know, I don't know. I couldn't basically name you any feelings, since Russia is still diverse, and there are groups which would perceive the events on the Maidan and the subsequent events with a different types of feeling, but. I don't know how sensible, how much sense is it to take it from the emotional side. How important is this? With what kind of feelings do we take this the Maidan? I think this is. I would maybe, with the kind permission of the chairman, I would probably reformulate a little bit the question and say how important is for the Russian society and for the Russian elite? How important is this in general? And I would say this is. I would maybe say two things about that. First of all, it's less important than it was. It is less important than it was, since Ukraine is not a fashion anymore in Russia. Since the other things are put kind of a shadow to the Russian-Ukrainian relations. And I have the feeling, maybe I'm mistaken, but again, this is my opinion. I think that Russia feels like it overgrown, you know, the scale of the Russian-Ukrainian relations, and now wants to position itself as a global player, you know, with a global reach and not with a regional reach, what is related to the Russian-Ukrainian relations. What I want to say, I will now I forget in the moment. Probably I will come to this later, but I will use also this opportunity to comment very quickly what was said by our first presenters, and this is about the common future. I don't know. I think this is kind of the wishful thinking. Why should we have the common future? What does it mean, the common future? Yeah, this is with whom should we have the common future? Maybe this is too much to say. I don't know. Is it again has a lot of sense to put such an ambition first? We need the common future. We need the future. Yeah, we need maybe the peaceful future, and we need cooperation. But common future, for me, this is much too much to expect at the moment. Thank you very much. I will stop here.
I just want to add that I was not only as a group CEO of KNAUF, I'm working in Russia from '88 as a lawyer. And not only in Russia, it was in the Ukraine too. So therefore my opinion is not only based on the work of KNAUF. 3 of these firms were my former clients, and so I have a little bit of experience more than just KNAUF. But KNAUF is an interesting case. Why? Because we have 3 factories in Ukraine in 3 parts: Kiev, Donetsk, and in Fastiv. And being there very often, of course, you get acquainted with the people there. You are working with them. And because it was a whole group with about 7,000 employees, 23 production places all over the CIS, of course you are working with all these people together. So we sent some specialists from Kiev to Novomoskovsk. We sent specialists from Donetsk to it's Soledar, it's not Donetsk, for example, to Uzbekistan, and everything was quite well up to this event 2 years ago. So as a German, I'm not representing, of course I'm not representing as a private person, but I'm even not the opinion of our government. I'm strictly against the politics we are doing. I think we are not doing a sovereign politic. We are depending from our so-called friends on the other side of the Atlantic. So don't wait from me that I will tell you now what the EU is thinking, or better to say what the EU is speaking, because these are different things. And the intention of the different states of the EU are different too. For me, working for such a long time in these countries, I have to add that I was in Poland for 4 years as a student when I was young. So I know a little bit of these countries and the mentality of the people working there or living there. And for me, it's just a pity. Pity is too less. It's grief. That what I have to learn in the last 2 years. I never thought that we will have such a development like in the last 2 years. You know, when I was in Poland, I was the first German student from the so-called FRG, from Western Germany after the World War II. And if you are coming as a German to such a country where you know that our ancestors killed about 6 million people, and everywhere we are going in Poland you can see these concentration camps and so on. It's very hard to live there. But it was very good. It was a very good experience because I thought that I saw that the connection between people is completely a different thing, and they can develop. So working in these countries in the CIS, I thought over 20 years we are going on a good way to develop these relationships between people. And therefore, the last 2 years, for me, they were just awful. And unfortunately, and this is the last sentence for now, I think it's not coming out of the, of the community. It's something which is put on from another side, and this is the main thing, and I don't like in these relation things, because people are not free to decide what they want to do.
Well, nice introduction for my part, because I strongly believe that if people decided to be free, nothing can stop them. My background, I was in normal life, I was in banking, then moved into government, was member of parliament, one of the leaders of Orange Revolution, deputy prime minister for European integration, chief of staff to President Yushchenko, one of the leaders of students' revolution on Euromaidan. Since 2006, civic activity, my first visit to Moscow after 9 years. What made Euromaidan very different from Orange Revolution is exactly that fact that on Euromaidan there was no political leadership. I know the guys who've been there from political opposition, they were good for nothing. They were not leading. Students who went there first nights, I was 7 days and nights only with students. When a student had been beaten, I was just ordinary member of protests. The biggest dilemma in Ukraine is that looks like today we have very professional government. I mean, when I see my government, majority of people English speaking with Western education, they are really qualified in comparison to what we had a few years ago. We have unprecedented international assistance, and at the same time, people hate this government much more even than Yanukovych. And people don't like it, people are ready to protest. The question is why? And the answer is that democratic process which we have in Ukraine is managed by Soviet type of government and in a Soviet way. So we have people 2 years after Euromaidan, people have dramatically changed. Something which what government was doing a couple of years ago, people would welcome, but now Euromaidan's another word is called dignity. So people, after sacrificing so many lives, demand from the government much more than good English speech and good declarations and lots of talk about reforms. They demand results. And results we are not seeing. I can tell you why we are not seeing results. Because the government itself, I was twice in the government. The government itself was not reformed. It functions in the same way as it used to be since 1917 probably. We have this vertical of power, we have rule of power, not rule of law. And that brings to enormous tension. Therefore, corruption now is much bigger threat to Ukraine than Russian troops. Really, corruption is a bigger threat, and lots of Ukrainians believe in this. Therefore, what is needed in my country, government actually starting responding to people's pressure, because there is a clear regularity in Ukraine. All changes in my country are initiated, implemented, executed by civil society, by energy of people. We don't have a single reform, single change, which was announced and introduced by government. And therefore, I would repeat again that I strongly believe that reforms and changes in the country can be initiated only from grassroots. I don't believe into changes from the top.
Well, we are going to speak about the grassroots and civil activity a bit later. But my next question is actually, it's referring to what you said, actually. There were some so-called Euromaidan ideals, or Ideale Maidana. well, it's association with Europe, it's fighting corruption, it's fighting this Soviet past, or heritage, yes, just this illustration process and so on. But my question is, what these so-called Euromaidan ideals are really gained? What are achieved from your perspective?
From my perspective?
We'll start with you and. Okay.
Yeah, actually, I understand it's easier for me to say. The major achievement of Euromaidan is not executed, because what Maidan demanded, changes of the system, not faces in the system, and that is not done. But the system became much more sensible to pressures. Like last week, almost every day we hear about some top-ranking officials resigning under public pressure because they were found like at the level of deputy minister of interior, or some like Mykola Martynenko, the guy was in my political group. He is in the parliament since independence, one of so-called under-oligarchs. He was chairman of Energy Committee and major financial pillar of the Prime Minister's office. And 2 days ago he had to resign from parliament because there is a criminal charges against him. We never saw that before. Now, if you really irritate public, you can't stay at the top level. So politicians became much more sensitive to public pressures. At the same time, it's a challenge to public because you can't concentrate your focus everywhere at the same time.
Helga?
You know, I don't want to be too political because yes, I'm an outsider. I'm a German, and
No one is perfect.
yeah, and I'm looking on this. Unfortunately, I know a lot of procedures in the Ukraine before the Euromaidan and after the Euromaidan. And if Transparency International is now rating the Ukraine concerning corruption 10 places lower than it was before the Euromaidan, this says something. I'm waiting until the president is selling what he said 2 years ago, his property, but he's not doing this. If somebody is interested, take a look at an American journalist website. He's called John Helmer, Dancing with the Bears. You can read here in detail what's going on in the Ukraine. And for me it was very interesting to learn that, for example, the first tranche of the IWF credit, $3.6 billion, went out of the Ukraine in 4 weeks. And you can read with Helmer to whom, where it gets, and so on and so on. Of course, this was not the result of Euromaidan, the only or the most important, but nothing changed. Take a look at this, take a look at the families, you will read their family names, you will read there, and take a look in which rank they are working today in the political class. And then you don't have to ask a German. You can read this on the website of an American investigative journalist, John Helmer. I completely agree with you. That beginning of the Euromaidan, then it was called, I think, Maidan. The beginning. Okay. Okay. This was something else, but unfortunately, it turned out to another political movement, and this movement, as you know it too, was supported by the states by $5 billion. To say that this is grassroots motivation, it's a little bit funny. Oh, it was financed. And it took another direction than at the beginning it was intended, unfortunately. And that is what I don't like. I would very much like to be Ukraine independent, deciding about its own future. You know, it's for me as a Democrat and yeah, living in these countries, you know, if I would say that, or if I would see that in the German government there would be 3 foreigners, all of the states, I would say, what's this? Is an independent government? No, of course not. In my understanding, maybe you have another one. But so, what was intending at the beginning, unfortunately, was not finished. And today, I think it will not be possible to finish, because Ukraine, unfortunately, is going a little bit another way. Unfortunately.
Thank you. I wanted to say basically 2 things. The first thing does not relate to the Maidan ideals. I will come to them in a second. But I remembered what I wanted to say in my first intervention. Yeah, but I still consider it to be kind of important, because it does relate to the notion of the common future. I think these 2 years, the time works against us. Since 2 years ago, these relations between Russia, awful years, you said, right? I agree. 2 years ago, we have different perception of what is good and what is bad, what is normal and what is not normal. 2 years ago, for us, what was going on between Russia and Ukraine was absolutely awful. Yeah, for me, it was awful. Now it is not. We are getting used to the things which previously we thought would be impossible. Now we take them as normal. So this is about the common future. What kind of common future could be built with this trend being at the moment, existing at the moment? And concerning the Maidan ideals, I believe, I'm convinced that there were high and very noble ideals at the Maidan. Unfortunately, with the ideals, you cannot build a state. You just need different people with the different talents, I would say. With the different, I didn't interrupt you, I'm sorry. Yes, you need institutions, yeah, but this is not what I was about to say. I mean, this is the ideals. They are. My idea is very trivial. I would say the right things at the right place and at the right time. Now the first ideals. Let us remember along the French Revolution. So this is the ideals are important. But then you need completely different kind of people. Maybe more practical, maybe more cynical. The people who are able to build the institutions, meaning the reliable rules of the game. Yeah, sure, and so on and so forth. So this is you are stuck with the ideals if you only on this romantic, and what I love it with all my heart. But this is not the state. This is the initial state, which is unavoidable and very fine and a lot of interesting. It's in a way it's an interesting place also. But again, to build the states, it's a lot of routine, serious work and not interesting. Yeah, Maidan is also interesting. State building is not that much.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. My next question is also referring to what you said about grassroots, about civil society. One of the achievements of Euromaidan is actually the active formation of civil society in Ukraine. There are a lot of civil organizations and grassroots activity and so on. How do you actually evaluate this process? This activity of grassroots organizations, civil society organization, will it actually bring some contribution to the formation of the new institutions, or just it will stay aside from what is going on with the state? There will be two these parallel realities: civil society in Ukraine and also actually the state, which, as you said, has a lot of resemblance of what it was during Yanukovych and the previous era, so to say.
Yes, as I said, the biggest pressure and why we have the war with Russia is that fact that we are getting out of the Soviet totalitarian regime, and what Putin is doing is getting back to the good old days. And therefore it's totally opposite movement. And when Euromaidan happened, that was a really civilizational choice. The problem here is with civil society. Civil society has its maximum. We have made Yanukovych, who was one of the biggest dictators in Ukrainian country, fled away to Moscow or to Rostov-na-Don, but the Euromaidan did not result in any new political entity. Civil society cannot come to power. So what happened in my country, well, one bastard fled away, but there are new bastards coming into power because we have nothing created. So I'm telling to my younger people, activists of Euromaidan, guys, before you can criticize this government, please remember that you didn't offer any choice to voters. There was no big choice. We still had to vote. People had to vote for all parties, financed and controlled by oligarchs. You know how it happens. Now we have some new parties where members of parliament, like some of you sitting here, but they are still not one political force. They are in different old political kitchens, and they are clearly not experienced and good enough. Therefore, to hope for the changes, you must create institutions. To build the state, this new power which is not formalized, it has the future, but it cannot now participate in the state building formally. But what civil society is doing in Ukraine, like it stopped Russian troops. There was no army when Yanukovych fled away. It's so-called volunteers. They appeared out of nowhere. Volunteers went into the army. Some businessmen sold their business, bought weapons and died. So now still volunteers are mostly financing and identifying problems. So we created like parallel system. New power, people's power, not institution, but that was very effective. All of a sudden, idea of Novorossiya is that. No more. But a year ago, no one knew. There was no army fighting back. So if you have this energy focused at something you are really know what, you can create a parallel structure. But sooner or later, you must have political party which represents so-called Maidan ideas. This party must get elected, they must have program, they should get vision, they should convince voters, and they should take responsibility, because responsibility of civil society is a bit different than when you are formally in the government.
Well, just one remark, you're talking about the civil society and the state is something apart, but there are a lot of Euromaidan activists who were elected in the parliament. Yes, and there are a lot of people also from Euromaidan, for instance, who are taking the positions in different state institutions like Odessa and so on.
Right.
All of them are well known.
In Parliament 425, we have 20 maybe people from Maidan, so you can see it's a bit different. It's not enough. I know what I'm talking about. They are maybe 10% of active MPs. 10% is not enough. And they are not united by one party. They are a bit here, a bit there, a bit there, so they are not formalized. They cannot, I was member of parliament. If you are a fraction, it's one thing, but if you are interfractional group, it's different. And they didn't manage to create, if they would go united, all of them, they could make it to parliament, but they decided, for many reasons, they decided to join different party labels.
Well, it's also the question concerning civil society in Ukraine. How do you evaluate actually this development? Whether, in your perspective, it exists, or maybe it's just some kind of wave of indignation which led the people to the streets, and after all, it is not this grassrooting as in Western countries. Well, civil society activism is deep-rooted and has actually some basis, so to say.
You know, I don't want to judge about civil societies in other countries. I can only explain you what I understand under the term civil society. If, for example, where I came from in Germany, if somebody would cut some trees in the street where I'm living, then there would be a movement of all of the inhabitants of the street. And they would do everything to hinder this process. And there isn't any need to have a party, there isn't any need to have a Mr. Soros who is financing this. It's a movement of the people living there. And this you haven't here in Russia, and you don't have it in the Ukraine too. The tryings, you know, to reach this by some parties from this would not work. Never. Yeah, from the top, this would never work. There should be first a common understanding of the inhabitants, of the people in the streets, what they want, in which direction they want to go, and then it will grow a common understanding and something like a civil society. When I came to Russia, it was for me astonishing. I will never forget this, you know, seeing a man in the cold winter lying on the street. I don't know, was he drunk or was he ill? He would lay there for maybe half an hour. And me and my wife, we were just looking, you know, what to do. People, they went through this guy. So we, as foreigners, turned to him to help him. That means we have another understanding how to handle relationship with other completely, for us, foreign people. And we were wondering, why is nobody helping? Policemen standing on the side and taking a look what we are doing. So there must be something else. And again, you cannot put this from the top. This is not possible. And you cannot, in my understanding, and that's what I don't like in the Ukraine, I'm sorry, if there are some people who have, I don't know why, a lot of money and trying to finance some NGOs. In Germany, for example, we have a very strong civil law about financing of parties. You have to show from where you will get your money. When in Russia they are trying to get the same transparency, who is financing some political movement? You can hear it all over the world that here, I don't know which laws they were taking into force. And the same in Ukraine. I don't understand how a civil society can allow that somebody from abroad is financing some movement in, I should add this of course, in one direction. There is nobody who says, you, here, 5 billion, do what you want to do with this. No. They are saying, we will give you these 5 billions and you have to choose this, and you have to go there, and you have to move there, and so on and so on. And that's what I don't like. I feel free. I'm a free citizen. I never would allow that somebody would do this with me. And the Ukraine, you can see it every day. In Russia, it's not exactly the same. There are a little bit other instruments, I would say. But in Ukraine, of course, it's a political movement. But this is not a movement which I would say, about what I would say it's democratic, because it's by one person, or by 2 persons, or maybe by 3 persons directed. And this is not complaining with my understanding of democracy.
Yes? Okay. First of all, I wanted to say that this is terribly unpleasant to hear your example about the poor person laying on on the street, on the.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry. This is I'm living in this country, namely in Russia, and I was there, but nevertheless, it is unpleasant. I understand that you're not lying. I understand you're telling the truth, and that's why it's so unpleasant. If you would lie, I would laugh. So, but I cannot do that. So, oh yes, but I don't think this is about the civil society. This is about type of the kind of interpersonal relations and the type of the involvement. For me, not only. And we are talking about not civil society as such, but the civil society as a instrument or barrier. This is also possible to the state building. But before I will say just a couple of words about this, I would like to express slightly disagreement, and not slightly disagreement, but disagreement with what Oleg so nicely said about the Ukraine made its civilizational choice with turning to Europe, while Mr. Putin, the good old days, and so on. This is a bad diagnosis for us. It gives us no hope. So it means that we already. I'm sorry, with all my respect, Putin is not Russian civilization, if there is any. Yeah? So this is. I don't think we made already our civilization choice. Please don't be.
That's why I said Putin. I don't say Russia.
Yeah, but you said civilizational choice, meaning that there is a Russian civilization or what? Or towards what kind of civilization did we make a choice? Yeah, please be more precise then. So I don't know. I still want to, I don't know, kind of hope. And concerning the civil society. Yes, normally I also hesitate to judge the civil society in Ukraine, but I don't have enough information, and with the incomplete information I cannot really make my statement. But what not to go too much to the abstraction, I can only say that this is absolutely imperative that you have the civil society. If you want the democratic consolidation, you cannot do it without the civil society. From the other side, we who think that civil society is necessary, we like civil society so that much, so we take it in Russia absolutely uncritical, with the uncritical kind of love. Not lover, but lover. So what the theory would tell us, that too vibrant civil society in the period of democratic consolidation could be a barrier to the democratic consolidation. So if it makes the society too fragmented, the democratic consolidation could be postponed. So in any case, in every case of a certain country, you should look at the civil society. So I am saying it without not hesitating absolutely in the necessity of the civil society for democracy, sure.
Okay, so apart from Euromaidan and talking about actually the aftermaths of this event, Ukrainian crisis, which at the moment are rather feasible for all the countries. I mean, actually, this situation concerning with sanctions which was imposed on Russia by the West and Russian anti-sanctions, at the moment there are also the strained economic relationship between Ukraine and Russia. I mean, there are also Russian sanctions imposed on Ukraine concerning trade, concerning investment, and also the reverse sanctions against Ukraine. For instance, we can call this energy embargoes and product embargoes concerning Crimea and so on. Do you think actually that this situation, I mean, this war of sanctions between different states is fruitful and helpful to, find out? No, I just want to precise my question. Fruitful to not only to find out the cooperation, but to not to lose this feeling of reality. What is going on in neighboring state? Because you were talking about actually that there is no common future. I agree with you. We are neighboring states, and there will be common future, but a future for each country, how it is actually perceived by this country. But we are our neighbors, and the common future, it will be anyway. What is actually, do you think, these sanctions will bring towards do we actually lose the reality? And we don't understand what is going on because we have this shield in front of our eyes, and we can not actually see the forest behind the trees.
I like to answer this question. That's why I don't need to think while giving my colleagues the time to think about the sanctions story. Well, the sanctions. I will tell you something just to be and try to be short about the sanctions that the European Union imposed on Russia and the counter sanctions. Yes, first of all, this is the sanctions. This is a signal. What else could you do if you find that the activity, that the political behavior of the other party is unaffordable, is absolutely unaffordable? What could you do? What could the European Union do? The European Union, they're not stupid. They understood that the sanctions they would put on them also the burden, also losses. There are a lot of economists, national economists inside the European Union which suffered a lot. Hungary, Slovakia, Finland. This is the dairy industry, and so on and so forth. So it is really terrible. So when I try to explain why still the sanctions, then I have, look, the people still have losses and they still have sanctions. Here we have principles. I think the story is about the principles and about the signals. So you have to. This is not the idea. I don't think that there were the idea that we will impose sanctions and the Russian regime will change itself or will be more democratic or something. No. This would be the full expectations. No way. But this was a signal. This was a signal. People, what you are doing is unaffordable. You should not do that. And European Union is not a state. And for me, it is absolutely a wonder that the 28 countries, the leaders of the 28 countries could agree on this. And if you would look at the forecasts prior to the agreement on sanctions, not only the Russian mass media said they would never agree, they would never come to sanctions. This is not possible. Ha ha ha. Yeah, and then but also the Western sanctions also said ha ha ha. Especially the British. This is I was reading the Guardian. They said no. The splits are too much, too deep. But they did it. This is really the wonder. This is how they showed now my country that this is not. It is not good. Probably was what was not good. Not good was the 5 days war with Georgia. This was not good. But with the Crimea, it is a different story. That Russia overcame a certain определенный рубеж, a certain barrier. Yeah, and here came the sanctions. And the European Union is good in sanctions because this is not first of all not many instruments. And then the European Union has the story of sanctions. And then came the Russia with the counter sanctions. It was the reply. It was the reply, and this was the tit for tat approach. Yeah, oka za oka. Yeah, you did me this, I did you that. So this is again what Russia probably it will use the experience of anti-European sanctions. But again, this is not because every now and then I'm hearing that the idea is to change. The idea is to change the regime. No, you will not change the regime. But this is a signal. This is the most powerful instrument which the European Union has at its disposal. And probably this is also will show that the multi-level institutional agreements of the European Union are in the sphere of the external actions are more robust than we previously thought. And the European Union would learn what kind of the common policy it would need in the future.
There are different ways to analyze these sanctions. And I will start with the inner European question. This, I think, now the last question where all 28 countries of the European Union coincide with their meanings. The only one. They have only these sanctions who are getting or helping to get together as European Union. If you have a look at the crisis we have now with all these people from Syria and so on, there isn't any common sense. The Polish say no, never. The Baltics say maybe 50 or maybe 60, but not more. There are other countries who are not existing in discussions at all. And therefore you can ask, what is holding this Europe together? One thing, and this is one function, and if you are talking with our Minister of Foreign Affairs, then he will tell you, yes, one function is to keep together this Europe. This is the first thing I wanted to say. It's not only against Russia, it's first of all for Europe, to show that there is a common understanding. And this, of course, is very dangerous, and it's illegal. So we have European law, and if you are really trying to analyze the sanctions under European law, then they are, I'm convinced that they are illegal. Why? Because you can only work with sanctions if they are intended to change something. And if they are not able, if they cannot change, they are illegal. And now we see 2 years, they cannot change what they wanted to change. Regime change in Russia. It's not possible in this way. And this makes these sanctions by European law illegal. You cannot just punish somebody, you can only punish somebody with the intention that this will change something. And this, as we see, 2 years, didn't change anything. Putin is supported by 86, 87%, so there isn't any change. If you take a look at these sanctions from an economic way, then I would recommend you all just compare the list of companies and the list of goods on the American list of sanctions, of the European list of sanctions, and of the Canadian list of sanctions. I think if I would ask before, you would think they are all the same. No, they are not the same. European has twice the figure of sanction than the United States. And therefore you can see, I would not name the companies here in Russia, German companies, world leaders with their products, leaving the country because they are working under sanction of the European Union. And guess who is coming instead of these countries? It's American companies. Why? Because these goods are not sanctioned by American law. So just take a look at these lists and compare them. If somebody wants to have this list, he can ask me, I will send them to him. This is very interesting. At the beginning, I too thought, yeah, sanctions. There are sanctions from the American side, from the European side. It must be the same. No, no, no. They are not the same. And this is very interesting. And it's the same with the people. This is not the same list of people who are sanctioned by the Americans and by the Europeans. The Europeans are more strict. They want to show, we will show him. And unfortunately, this is a dictionary our politicians are using. European politicians, I should say. It's first of all the Baltic states and Poland. And this is the next component which is interesting for me. The Baltic states, I don't know, maybe it's not below 2% of all the inhabitants of the European Union. If we will take the Polish, maybe it's again plus 6%. 6 or 7% today is deciding about the foreign politics of the European Union. In my understanding, it's at least questionable if this is very democratic. In my understanding, we are saying here that the tail is, how is it called? Wedel mit dem Hund. This is not the dog who is, Yes, moving his tail. It's the tail who is moving the dog. Okay, so this is another question. Is this really very democratic? I would ask this question. And the last question, if you want to be a pedagogue and if you want to reach something, there are two possibilities. You can bite your children, you can close them in a dark room, you can say, I want to see you on your knees to understand that you make something wrong, or you can talk to them. You can try to explain, you can try to convince, and so on. I have children, never would bite a child, never. But this is what we are doing now. We want to hurt Russia. Russia, of course. Because we want to hurt Russian economics. You didn't know this? Okay, that's what we see. You never heard, Mr. Nagel?
No.
I want to see Putin on his knees. You never heard this? Then you don't read German newspapers. No, of course, I understand it.
No, it's
So why are you wondering?
German newspapers is rather well. It's a good example how actually, and it will be my next question to you, all the experts, about the press and about the attitude towards the press in different countries. Because well, what I see, for instance, in Germany, for me, it's rather interesting when you are reading an article, for instance, in Die Welt or Spiegel. It's totally, well, officially anti-Russian and so on, but there are a lot of comments, and I see that actually that the German society is divided. And for instance, lately there was a new notion, called Russlandversteher oder Putinversteher. Russlandversteher, okay. And it was for me really interesting. But I think we will discuss it a bit later, and your turn towards the problem of sanctions, and maybe not only sanctions between Russia and the EU, but Russia and the Ukraine, because at the moment the situation I mentioned, it's that we have the shield that Ukraine, for instance, with its sanction against Russian carriers, I mean, against Russian air companies. It looks rather peculiar for us.
Yeah, I arrived by Chisinau, but I would say that it's not good when one child tries to kill and is killing other children because it's not civilized. It's not good. Specifically when you call other brothers. So it's not good to kill brotherly children. Simply, it's too bad. So if this is happening, the civilized world must respond. You say, talk. How many years you've been talking to this child? Whole life. What is the result? Crimea, Donbass. When I was talking to some German ambassadors after Georgia, because I have good friends among German ambassadors, I was saying, guys, if you will not respond to Georgia, next will be Crimea. And German ambassador told me, Oleh, come on, you are paranoid. You can't imagine 21st century Russians traveling by tanks anymore. Who is paranoid? What happened? Who is responsible for this? Saakashvili is responsible. Oh yeah, Saakashvili provoked poor child Putin, sure. And then with this, now we are responsible. Now we are being attacked because we decided to go independently. You always find excuses. You always find excuses. If you are a big nation, you should be responsible. Because I love your understanding of somebody trying to put Putin on knees. Come on, it's humiliation. But why are you not thinking about letting this guy into 21st century without any provocation, attacking, sending troops abroad? Now we have roughly 10,000 troops in Ukraine, this green polite man. What are they doing there? With latest tanks, with all the proofs, you hope no, that proofs are there. No need, no deficit of troops. The latest armor is special troops, which are trained for killing. They are now there. What happened with frontiers? What Europe was proud about? After World War II, there was the golden area. Frontiers are not touchable. You can't simply, in the 21st century, say, oh, actually it was mine. Because if you open this process, then the world is crazy, because, well, there are so many lands in Europe which used to be God knows whose. So if this logic is allowed to one small child, there would be other crazy children saying, no, no, that territory was ours. 50 years ago, that was 20 years ago, Japanese would remember Chinese, the world will go crazy. So, sir, in order for the world not to go crazy, you should think more about how to put somebody who is irresponsible in its own place. So you say sanctions are not working? I would disagree as an economist. It takes time, but there is no other way. Talking, you've been doing talking for 20 years. What is the result of your talking? Nothing. The result of your talking is now that you then have to be responsible for thousands of people being killed because you didn't act, you talk. So that's a bit about responsibility. And then I would respond just a few remarks about civil society. Yeah, you know, in my country, again, we jumped out of very totalitarian regime. And what we are doing as civil society, normally in your country, it's being done by good old parties. We don't have parties. And now only we have the law on financing parties. How you can get money in my country, it's either abroad or from oligarchs or criminal money. If I would ask you, what would you choose? Some international fund money or criminal money? Tell me frankly. I think you should say international money. I am saying you would say both criminal. Yeah, but no, you. So the choice in Ukraine is you have either criminal money or international, and you don't have parties. Therefore, my people have to do many things which normally parties are doing.
Well, I think that the German party system is a rather peculiar one, and well, it's the only state with the constitution. Their parties are embedded into the constitution in Germany. So it's a peculiar case, I would say. But oh yeah, of course.
I thought you say go to hell, but you said. I want to say that for me, I'm terribly sorry, but I think this whole thing with the child parent, this is the way to nowhere. You know, because Russia, you can say Russia on the knee, yeah, okay, yeah.
Say this.
Yeah. You said yeah, but this is yeah, maybe the politicians, yeah. What? Yeah. You know. I think this is you cannot under current condition you cannot propose this analogy. Yeah, this analog. Yeah. Metaphor. Yeah, this is because this is asymmetric. Russia would never accept it. Russia, if you want to have another hit, then yeah you. Yeah, but you say Russia is a child. Okay. Oh, not you. All these people, these politicians. But I think we should get rid about this child, parent, and so on and so forth. And and concerning, I agree with you concerning the sanctions, because normally the sanctions should have cumulative effect. Yeah, they're accumulating over years. Yeah, you cannot have immediate result. This is not the case. So you have to wait. And then they probably, and you hope for incremental changes, incremental, and not immediately coming the newly born democratic system. No, this is not the case. Again, this is the only instrument. I think we still don't know how it will work, because if you look at Russia, how they say, you know, our economists, our government say, wonderful, you have sanctions. This is the incentive of import replacement. Wonderful. We are going to modernize our economy. Let's look. Ну давайте посмотрим. I'm very curious of the next 2-3 years, looking how I'm going, If they want me to take part, I will take part. Yeah, in import replacing. What are going to be replaced? How? So let us. Probably this is our hope to modernize our economy. To have the chance. It's a chance and it's a challenge. Yeah, why not? Why not? Let's. But not. Yeah, today the sanctions and tomorrow the results. No. It's not the case. The huge country, the huge economy, the huge imbalances in the economy. So sanctions doesn't work that fast.
Concerning the sanctions, just one remark towards what you said actually about that 2 years past of the sanctions. It's illegal, but we have the example of Belarus. It's under sanctions for 10 years, and they are really only this year. Well, after the presidential elections in Belarus, there was some kind of smoothing the sanctions against Belarus. There was a moratorium imposed, this moratorium on sanctions was introduced. Actually we are running out of time, and okay. Well, and then I think when I ask my final question, and we are asking this question, and when we go into the auditorium, okay?
I just want to add one thing. I think this misunderstanding with the child, I was citing a politician. I didn't say that Russia is a child. Of course, I'm against such an approach. That's what I don't like. I hoped, that you would understand this. It's a pedagogical question, and I'm against this strictly. Not changing the borders. What are you doing, for example, in Libya, Iraq, now in Syria? These are sovereign countries. They were approached by foreigners. They were changing their borders. And you know what we have today? Did you once, I don't know where, say this is not right? Or did you say, oh, this is okay, only if the Russians are doing this, this is not right? Do you know that in 2004, Americans officially publicated that international law is not working in the modern world, and therefore they are not honoring international law? You know what this means? Yep, that you can do everything. This guy who thinks that international law doesn't work, for me law is working for everybody in the world. And I mean this seriously. I don't see that somebody could say, I can murder, I will allow this by myself, but the others not, of course. This is not possible. And this is a question of international law too. So if we are talking about this, and I agree with you, if you are going to another country, you are not invited, then of course it's against international law. Who invited all the parties today and yesterday, Great Britain, to come to Syria? Who invited them? The sovereign government? The people of Syria?
I know Ukraine got nothing to do with this.
Okay. My last question to you, and when I give the free mic to the auditorium to ask you also the questions. I would say this question is rather loose, but I'd like you to be a bit precise in asking you your ideas about it. If we're talking about relations between Russia, Germany and Ukraine, what in your perspective are realistic, I must stress, realistic ways of improvement of interrelations between countries? And what do you think actually the future would like in medium perspective, medium term and long term? Realistic ways of improvement and future scenarios, so to say.
First, we should recognize that every nation, Russia, Ukraine, and Germany, have their own right to build their own future, right? Without tanks or people from other countries interfering. Are they German? Are they Ukrainian? Are they Russian? It's not good. Yeah? So it's up for the people. Second, if we would like to have a common understanding, we should have common understanding what is good and what is bad. What is legal, what are the rules, how we coexist. Because if in one country we believe that what happened is a democratic choice, other country calling it a fascist junta, third country saying, oh God, it's your inter-brotherly relationship, then it's going nowhere. So this is very important that people, young people in every country have the right to plan their future independently from what others believe in, providing that their states guarantee them this. Well, we're talking to young people. We are talking to young people. Us too will be providing them this condition, this condition. So it's very serious. What I want from my state, I don't want from my state too much. I want from my state to make my life planning possible as I see it, not as some party or president or parliament. I would like to get this possibility to realize myself. I think all of you would agree, and I think if there would be German students sitting here or everyone would agree. You would like to see your life, plan your life, and have the chance to realize it. And don't be afraid of some politicians going crazy and forcing you to go and die for some crazy ideas, right? So I think this is very important. In case of Ukraine, what Ukraine must do, I'm not speaking about Russia, we clearly have to be Germany compatible. Because what my German colleague is saying, he's absolutely right. For Germany, law is über alles. For Germany, if there is a speed, it's 20 kilometers, German driver would go 20 kilometers. Ukrainian driver will go also 20 kilometers. Because he knows when he will be stopped, he will be fine. He couldn't bribe German police, right? So you have to be compatible. For German business to be in Ukraine, they must have same sense of confidence that their right would be guaranteed, that they would not be approached by corrupted officials, that their property could not be raided or confiscated. They need, Germany, as a very powerful economic state, needs stability and rule of law in other countries. Because if we don't have rule of law, if in Ukraine there is rule of one power, in Russia there is rule of other power, the rules are depended by these people, not by law. So then we don't have this future. But I'm pretty confident that this is where we are moving to. Because the country which would decide to challenge the rest of the world has no chance. 1.5% of GDP of the world cannot blackmail the rest of the economy. 1.5% of GDP, this is Russia's GDP, for you to know. But Germany may be forgot. So you can't have 1.5% forcing you to play at their games. You should respect yourself. And therefore, the future belongs to common sense and to common rules. And this is the conditionality. If somebody would try to prove otherwise, I think this guy would lose, definitely.
Yeah, common sense, it's really the thing we need badly. Even here.
No, to try. We attended a conference 2 days ago about the BRICS countries, and I hope you know, and that...
I didn't know you attended it.
Okay, no, you know what I'm talking about, that these 20% of the GDP of the world, which is today earned better. Okay, it's only 20%, and it's diminishing. So let's see, 1.5% I knew. About the German position. We had a very clear position, as you know, 21st of February, as you know, our Minister of Foreign Affairs, together with the French Minister of Foreign Affairs, with Yanukovych, and guys from the opposition, from the Maidan movement, signed a paper. And in the same night, this paper was destroyed by the guys from the Maidan. Not by Yanukovych, not by Steinmeier, not by the French Minister of Foreign Affairs. So we tried. And then we understood that it's very hard there to intervene, because I don't know how many common aims we have today. As I said, the situation is worsening. The corruption, do you think you can somebody invite to invest in a country where this factor of corruption is diminishing? This is really very hard. And frankly speaking, it was hard before too. This was not better before in Ukraine. The rating of Russia, by the way, is better and was always better. Not good, but better than the Ukraine. So we tried, and we are trying. If you see the president of the Ukraine coming back from Berlin, where he hoped to get I don't know what, then you will see that they should say him some words. But it's very, very hard. If he 2 days ago compared the situation in the Ukraine with that what was going on or happening in Paris 1 week ago, the whole international community, they did not laugh. They did not know where to show, where to take a look. You know, it's just to blame. It was very, very hard. And there to find a common language, it would be very, very hard. Unfortunately, why? Because Ukraine is an ideal bridge between Russia and the European Union. And you won't find a person in Germany who doesn't want not to work with Russia. We are on the same continent. We had very bad times, we had good times, but it's not so that we are on an island. We are on one continent, and we are depending on each other. And a country between this should use this geographic situation and work with the one and with the other side. As you see in Poland, do you know how many Polish managers we have in Russian companies? It's more than you think. Yes, I can show you. It's my community. Believe me, so there are some changes. I don't say that they have to marry each other, but you can always find a way to understand. But just to close all the frontiers, to destroy all the bridges, it would be, I think, first of all, for the Ukraine, it would be very hard. Not for Germany and not for Europe. Do you really think that somebody is inviting Ukraine to the European Union? There is one thing, you know, why the Ukrainians want to go to the European Union, because they think there is a labor market for them.
Who said so?
There isn't any labor market.
Who said so?
Okay, man.
Just one remark. Well, if I don't mistake, today or yesterday, I heard actually this analysis promoted by, I don't know, one European expert, either from Great Britain or from Germany, who actually said Ukraine is going to get a free trade area with the European Union from the 1st of January.
This is the fact.
This is actually the fact, but what Ukraine can actually promote on the European market? Well, cheap European goods for Ukraine, it's a new reality you will live in a couple of months. And Ukraine, it's first of all the labor market and labor forces for European Union, and everybody knew this, and even the Ukrainian experts actually accept this point of view. Sorry, it was just one remark.
You are very welcome. Do another remark if you want. Okay, I wanted to say 2 words about the question about the future. Yes, it would be very good it would be wonderful to come to common ideas and common institutions and perceptions. Although this is not the art to come to something common. The problem is how to hold the perception. You know, this is we could invent something very common, but the lack is in what is called in political science credible commitments. The commitments are not credible, you know, and this is first of all the problem of my country. You know, so who knows? You know, Russia can. This is always a danger of violating this of the non reliable commitments. So, yeah, this is in a way unpredictability. But this is, frankly speaking, the political scientists and political practitioners do not know what to do with this. You will find no theory and no literature which would explain you of how to make from the non-reliable behavior reliable behavior, especially if the country considers itself to be hegemon and so on and so forth. This is you just don't know. You don't know theoretically and you don't know practically. Okay, it doesn't mean that you have no hope, but still you have no hints. And the second thing is that pardon what I want to say. What would be the reliable hope for the future? Now, you don't know. I don't believe in appeals. I don't believe in feelings because this is for me. This is air. I also don't believe in geography because so far, okay, we are close geographically. Did it help from the conflict? No. So this is something new that we are neighbors geographically? No. So this is, but I believe in the rational behavior, and I think if the hope is that the leaders, and this is about the leaders, not about the behavior, about the population. The population is opportunistic, especially in Russia. This is about the leaders. If the leaders would consider that the conflictual behavior costs them too much, that then it will be the way of how you would build what is called an equilibrium. So the situation when not one of the parties wants to go into the major conflict. However, I think that this common denominator on which we can build this equilibrium would be absolutely 100% much lower niche than we already had, because I believe we can even overcome the situation in the eastern Ukraine, but the Crimea, no, this is no way. This will still be the dividing matter for the years to come. And I believe that again, the last thing, we could build this equilibrium, but the common denominator of our cooperations beyond the pipelines and so on and so forth, beyond this would be on the very low basis. So we have no chances to reach what we already had. We already lost a lot.
So thank you so much, and we're switching to the second part of this discussion. This is actually the questions from our audience. Please raise your hand, and when you are asking your question to the expert, please name yourself first, and when name the expert. So you're welcome.
Thank you for this discussion. My name is David from Germany. First, I would just to have a comment for Mr. Rybachuk from
Rybachuk.
Yes, I have a lot of respect that you came here today. I think this is really brave under the common circumstances, and so thank you very much for hearing your opinion at this event and for taking this. No, that's all to you. And my question goes to Mrs. Busygina from Russia.
Probably you could say either Professor or Irina. I would prefer
Okay, my question to Irina. Do you think it was out of the perspective of Ukraine, was it a mistake to give up their nuclear weapon program when they, in order to get, on the other hand, to get the territorial integrity guaranteed by Russia?
My question is that no, it was not a mistake. So this is
Why?
The short answer why.
So if it was, then I would like to know why.
He said the second question, why you think it wasn't a mistake when Ukraine gave up. It gave up its nuclear arsenal to Russia. Why it was a mistake from Ukraine?
I think, otherwise the situation now would be much more dangerous. You would have much more potential for conflict, and much more, and the level of the dangerous level of the unpredictability would be much more. So this would be, my general idea. I don't know if you agree with me. Yeah.
When to the right, there was also a question. Who raised the hand from the right? The next one, this, yeah.
Good evening, our guests. I have this kind of question. I've always considered the Ukrainian war as a civil war, and each civil war begins with the crisis of the self-identity. And on both sides, there is a large crisis of self-identity, which now have the schizophrenical scales on both sides. I underline it. And it lasts since 1917. So what is the treatment from this?
Could you more say one more time, but precisely, what is the question?
The question is if we can find some way out of this self-identity crisis on both sides. Ukraine and Russia.
Maybe he means actually that for a lot of Russians, Ukrainians are just the minor brothers. This identity, it's actually about this quarreling identity when Mr. Putin says actually that Ukrainians, they are just like Russian, and Mr. Kuchma, his book, that Ukraine is not Russia.
That's exactly what I mean.
He thinks that this is about the internal identity crisis.
Or maybe you answered the question, no? Anyone?
It's not a civil war. Answer is very simple. If there would be no external intervention, there would be no military conflict in Ukraine. Because in 25 years before that, we had very different stages. But without Russia interfering, there was always compromises and peaceful solution. But when you move in regular troops, tanks, rockets, heavy weapons, mortar, humanitarian convoy, heavily loaded every week. So this is not just civil war. So it's externally. If the border is closed in Ukraine, on the close attention of OSCE and all the international community, solution would be there. But this is not happening, as you see. So it's not about identity. Let's not play with the words. Identities are internal issues, and we, as Ukrainians, will manage to find our identity without polite green advisors on our territory. Full stop.
I think you wanted to say something, to add something, right?
For many years, for decades, for even centuries, it was the same political and economic space. And I may say that it seems more than a one-state problem. And the civil war, as I mean it, goes despite of state borders. The problem is much more larger.
My English is not so poor. I understood what you mean. I hope. maybe I'm wrong, but I will try to answer on this imagined question. So this is yes, this is. I think it a lot. You're right. A lot deals with identity. However, there is no treatment for identity. This is the problem. This is not a recipe. This is a generational issue. And as for the Ukrainian identity, the actual conflict and the relations to Russia surely helped the is helping the Ukrainian to form their identity. What is going on in Russia? Are we going to shape their identity through Ukrainian crisis and through conflictual behavior with the West to make their identity? I don't know. I wouldn't wish my nation to do that. But again, it is difficult. And for me the identity issue contributes to the conflict in a negative way, since it brings the irrational aspect. Irrational, too many feelings. If would be not so close to each other, it's like brothers. You hate your brother. You wouldn't hate your neighbor for the same behavior, but you hate your brother. So this is the case. So I understand the point, but sorry for tautology, but the point is I don't know how to cure the point.
Just don't kill your brothers. It's not civilization behavior. Right.
Yes.
So hello, my name is Oleh. I'm from Ukraine. First of all, thanks for your inputs and for your insights to the discussion. And I have a question directly concerning Euromaidan. So 2 years ago, when the Euromaidan started and when the peaceful protesters were beaten, and during the shootings of Maidan, the Heavenly 100, Nebesnaya Sotnya, I was unfortunately or fortunately not in Ukraine. I was doing my exchange studies. So I was following all these events in the media. And I also heard to my friends who were in Kiev, because I'm not from Kiev originally. And they told me a lot about the very idea of Euromaidan, and I somehow felt a sense of solidarity with them, with their very idea, with the very concept of Euromaidan. But now, if we are talking about the ideals of Maidan, I think it's visible now that these ideals were not attained at all. And again, I'm following the coverage of Maidan events in the media. And we call it a revolution of dignity and a victory of Maidan. Isn't it too early to call a Maidan a victory and a revolution, actually? Isn't it just another buzzword? What do you think? Thank you.
Whom are you asking?
I'm asking everyone. Maybe Mr. Rybachuk, first of all, and if you have something to say, then you're welcome.
I already said it's not a victory, but it's a major shift. So it's like a process where you are getting from the old state, old process, old understanding of what is good and what is bad into very different. When people have much more say today, but again, Euromaidan failed to create the institution, the party, which could take responsibility. But that process is upgoing. I believe that what people are doing in Ukraine now, they are forcing very corrupted, unreformed government to respond under pressure. As I said, last week only we have number of top-level resignations forced only by people and that happened just 2 years ago. Before that, whatever publications are there in newspapers, it's like in Russia, you never resign. Your Russian Attorney General, Chaikov, whoever, said, well, it's all not true. In Ukraine, they also try to say that it's not true, but they have to resign. Therefore, this is mostly where results of Maidan, you can feel that. And again, people realized that you cannot hope, you cannot shift your responsibility to elected politicians. So Euromaidan was not chanting a single name. On Orange Maidan, there was Yushchenko, Timoshenko, like almost living gods. On Euromaidan, none of politicians ever was applauded by people. So people understand that in order to have politicians, you must control them daily. And that is also something which makes this country very different.
I came to the idea that I would like to add something and said that Maidan is an open process. You know, what Maidan started is an open process, and I don't think that anyone knows what will be the end. I hope for the good end. But still, this is, I think, for the symbolic reasons, it is important to still, you know, to give the Maidan the symbolic value. It is important. Maybe you don't feel that this is the revolution of dignity and so on and so forth, but it is important for the people as a reference point. It is important. I was at Maidan, it was the revolution of dignity. So it's not for the academic purposes. We can deconstruct and say this was this was that, this is too early, this is too late, so on and so forth. But for to make it kind of the consolidating issue, it is very important for this purpose.
Hi, my name is Britta. I'm from the organization team from the German side. I also have a question for Mr. Rybachuk. So,
Where are you?
I'm here. So my question is about history politics, because after Euromaidan, Ukrainian government basically rewrote the history of Ukraine and kind of tried to abolish all the elements that were connected to Russia. And as far as I know, huge parts of Ukrainian history are connected to Russia, and also basically the identity of a lot of people, I guess. So first the question, isn't it like a mistake to try to create like a one-sided history in a country that is multi-ethnic? And second, what kind of identity should be promoted by the Ukrainian government instead?
You made here one mistake. After Euromaidan, what has changed, it's not rewriting history with Russia, but de-Sovietizing history. It's very different. Now we don't have monument to Lenin. I don't know what he ethnic, Russian or not. Like we don't have monuments to Stalin. He was clearly not Russian. We don't have monuments to those Soviet leaders who killed millions of Ukrainians. And it's like, can you imagine in Germany, monuments to Hitler and all his gang? It was part of your history. Why have you denazified your country? We didn't de-Sovietize. Stalin and Hitler are almost twins in the way they treated their own people. That's why they conflicted. Too much similarities. Very authoritative, people hating regimes, killing their own people more than each other. So what we are doing, and I'm pretty happy here, and I told you that this is also the major achievement of Euromaidan, we are de-Sovietizing. We don't want to live with symbols, totalitarian monuments to Bolsheviks who were brought from outside, and they are all active proponents of Holodomor. We lost millions of people there, and you know that. So this is a good point. And I believe this allows us to have different future, because if we will not be able to do what you did with denazification in Germany, if the Soviet idols are not moved away, if you have Lenin and other guys and Chekiste and other monuments everywhere, it's a strange world. You have monuments to those who've been killing your predecessors. That was very anti-human regime.
Very short. I think I agree with Oleg, because I think in my country, in Russia, we have this big mistake that we are still playing with the Stalin figure. It's a dangerous thing. It's a terribly dangerous thing. And the people don't know on на каком свете они находятся, where they are. And this is the desovietization that gives the people the coordinate, you know, and it expresses very clear the attitude of the state. Okay, we have the history, but this is not the history we are proud of. We don't put the monuments to the dictators and to this, I don't know how to say what Stalin in my eyes is, you know, and I really think we are in Russia, we are playing terribly dangerous games, you know, because we give the room, we don't fill the room with the state's reaction. So that's why we leave the room free, and here we can have the different interpretation. What kind of person Stalin was, what kind of person Lenin was. The Ukrainian, they took a different path, and I think it's right.
Sorry, we are running out of time, so it was the last question you asked. Yes, because it's 8 p.m. Sorry, folks. Of course, you've got a lot of questions, but maybe you can ask your question privately, to the persons. Well, summing up our discussion, I think it's rather interesting, it's rather fruitful. I can say that a lot of words were said, and I'm personally not agree with actually some remarks which were made, because I think actually that if we're talking about the common future, we should take into account that we had actually the common past with Ukraine. For instance, you said about Holodomor as a great tragedy of Ukrainian folk. For instance, my family, my grandmother and grandfather were led to the starvation, and they starved, and my grandpa, he managed to survive by miracle. And we actually think actually it was also a crime, but it was not only crime against Ukrainians. There were a lot of people in then Soviet Union which were victims of this
monuments to Lenin and all Bolsheviks then?
Well, for Ukraine, actually for Ukrainians, I think if we're talking about Lenin, for me it's rather interesting that that in Finland Lenin is a rather popular person. Well, he's the founder of a Finnish state, independent Finnish state. Do you not agree?
The democratic Finnish state.
Yes, actually that you know the history of Finland.
Next time I will ask them. But
No, because actually I've got the Finnish roots, so I can tell you the Finnish history. It's rather interesting about the interrelations between Finland and Sweden, and when Finland became the part of Russian Empire. Yes, it's actually my own. So I would like to be optimistic about actually about the interrelation between Russia, Ukraine, and European Union. And just the last word. 2 days ago, if I don't mistake, there was the new sociology poll by Levada, who said actually rather interesting figures that 70% of Russians they are for the improvement of relationship with the West, and 64% for the improvement of relationship with Ukraine. I think it's rather a good sign for development, further relationship, and maybe creating the common future. And of course this future creation depends on us. So yeah, that will be all. If you got your questions, please, you are welcome. You can privately ask your question to the experts. I think we've got some minutes, but not so much time.
Thank you, Mr. Andrei. It was nice. It is a great thanks for you and for your university to host us here, but we also want to say thank you to our distinguished guests, to Dr. Irina Busygina, to Mr. Gerd Lenga, and to Mr. Oleh Rybachuk for coming here and for having such a great time with us with this whole discussion. Though I would say that it brought a lot of thoughts and a lot of food for thoughts in our mind, and yeah, and hopefully we will have you still a bit to ask our questions a bit more. Thank you again, and on behalf of our team we want to give you a small present. Actually this year we tried to be as multicultural as we are actually, and brought small presents for you from different countries. I think it will be, well, you will like it. So thank you again, and applause from the audience.